Hello, my name is Heather Perez, and I am the librarian for the Historical Studies program. This video is intended as a brief refresher for those that have already had a library session so that you can review how to use our library for finding research materials for your papers. From the library's website, library.stockton.edu, there are several things that you'll want to be aware of. You can first of all meet with a librarian. You can set up an appointment with me if you would like to go over research or to look for primary sources. You would just want to go to the Meet a Librarian option. You can meet with other librarians for other topics, of course, too. On the library homepage, you'll also want to be aware of the subject guides for historical studies. There is lots of information there, including lots of links to primary sources. And we're going to take a look at some of those in just a little bit here. Also on the library homepage, you will see the citation tools button. And this will take you to the links to the pages of how to do the different styles, citation styles, including Chicago, which is what we usually use for the historical studies program. So clicking on that link is going to take you to the Purdue website, and it will give you the guidelines for how to cite different materials in Chicago format. The last topic I want to bring your attention to on the library website itself is up here under research. And here, there's a whole section on how to conduct research step by step. And it's going to take you through how to evaluate your topic, how to evaluate resources, how to determine if things are scholarly or popular, and then also how to use Flash Find if you need a more in-depth explanation than this video. But let's get into it. So say, for example, I am thinking of a topic and I'm thinking about doing something about, foreign policy in the United States, maybe during the Depression era. It's just an idea that I have. And I don't really know where to go from there. I'm just kind of thinking of that as my topic. So the first thing I want to do is pick out the keywords in my topic. So I jotted down my topic right here. And I picked out the keywords, United States, foreign policy, depression. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine that with our exact phrase quotes for the things that are more than one word. And I'm going to use a Boolean and to make sure that I include all of those terms. This is a refresher course. If you're not familiar with these, please do come find me so we can go into it more in depth. I'm going to take these terms that I've combined, and I'm going to put them into Flash Find right here. Flash Find is our search engine, and it's going to search all of our library resources, including books and news articles. It's going to search journal articles, all kinds of resources that we have here at the library. So when I put in my search terms, I end up with a lot of different top things that come up. I see some books that are available online, some ebooks. I see some journal articles. I can see that this one is peer reviewed right here. Hopefully you remember what that means. I can open it up. I can look at the article itself. I can read it right here on the screen. I can print it out. I can do all kinds of things. I can also check these buttons to see articles that are similar to this article. So if you found one that is a great fit for your topic and you want to read more articles like that, you may want to check out these buttons because the articles that this article cites may be of use to you, as well as articles that cite this article. They may be of use to you also. Now, do remember to log into your library account as you start your searching because you can actually save your search and you can save the search results for later use. As we all know, research takes a while. You probably won't be doing it in one day. And so you're probably going to want to save some of your results. So if you've put together the perfect search string up here, you're going to want to save that so you can get back to it later. You can also bookmark or pin some of these things that are of use to you if you found some good resources. Now, obviously, we have lots of resources here, and we still don't really know too much about our topic. So one of the first things we may want to do is to check out a tertiary source, like an encyclopedia or a reference book. And to do that, we can go over here to our filters, and we can select reference entries. We're going to apply the filter. And we can see now some results that are short entries of information that may have more detailed information about our topic. So for example, I'm going to go down here to the Encyclopedia of Political Parties and Elections, and I'm going to choose this topic on isolationism. This is from Credo Reference, which is one of our academic databases. It's a database with reference entries with these tertiary sources. Tertiary sources you should be familiar with, and if you're not, please do come find me. So in this article, we might be able to find some more information about our topic. We can read about, Woodrow Wilson and the start of some of the isolationism. We can look and see if we're doing our topic, of course, on the 1930s, on that interwar period. We can read more about that, and maybe this will give us additional ideas for keywords that we can use to improve our search and to narrow down our topic. We certainly don't want to do a whole dissertation at this point on this topic, unless you're doing your dissertation, of course. And we don't want to, we don't want our topic to be so broad. So we may want to start to narrow down. Perhaps we want to add in, one of the names of a country here, like Germany, United States foreign policy towards Germany in the interwar years, that type of a thing we could start to add into our topic. You can also see there's additional resources down here that you might want to take a look at because they're related directly to this article in the encyclopedia. So once we've got additional information about our topic, we can also see some related searches over here. We may want to go back to Flash Find and update our keywords. So let's take our original topic here and let's start to think of other keywords that might go along with this topic and expand our search a little bit before we decide exactly on our topic. So from our original search of United States foreign policy during the Depression, we may want to expand our search to include other search terms like American foreign policy or international relations, interwar, 1930s. We may want to add in some of these other terms. Now, as we're brainstorming terms, the things in each box are going to be combined with a Boolean or, so that the computer knows that it can choose from one or the other topic that we've put inside the parentheses. But we want to make sure that we keep those ands between the different topic terms. So this is what a search string would look like, combining all of these other topics right here, or these other ideas or these variations in the topic. So I'm going to copy that and put that into Flash Find now. And this is an advanced search that you're doing here. You could also use the advanced search box here. I find it easier to brainstorm and then combine it here and then to put it into Flash Find. So now we have quite a few results, of course, 96,000 results, much more than you probably wanted to take a look at. But what we'll start to do is to narrow down a little bit now. So we may want to look at a few of these to make sure they're on point for our topic and to see if these are things that are in line with what we were expecting to see. We can see a few books again, some online books. We can see a few articles. Now note that this article right here says check for other services. Remember, this one may not be available through our library. We may have to request it through interlibrary loan. And so you can click on that button. And if it's a topic that, or if it's an article that does look like it's of interest to you, you can read the abstract here. You could check to see if it's available through one of the open access areas. It looks like it might be. Or if not, you can log in and request it through interlibrary loan. You can also see that we have some books that say they're in the remote storage facility. Now, during our library renovation, we do not have access to these books, so you would want to request these also through interlibrary loan so that we can get them from another library for you. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to start to narrow down my search a little bit and use some of the filters on the left-hand side to do that. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select scholarly and peer-reviewed. Now, do note that this is going to eliminate anything that is probably not a journal article. Most of the journal articles are flagged as scholarly and peer-reviewed, or flagged or not flagged. But a lot of the books, which may be scholarly books based on who published them and where, may be scholarly. They may be considered scholarly. However, by checking this box, it's probably going to eliminate most of them. So if you think you need a book or you want to look at a book, you're going to want to look at that first before you check this box right here. I'm checking this and I'm going to apply the filters. And it starts to narrow down my results. We did have 96,000, now we're down to 52,000. Now, obviously, we still need to narrow this down quite a bit. And what I might decide to do at this point is to use some other filters on the left-hand side. I could do things like select a subject-specific area that I'm interested in, or I could eliminate things too. So for example, if I know that I only can read articles in English, I could select English articles. That might be an easy one to start with. And then under subjects, if I know, for example, that I am not interested in things having to do with the Cold War, because that's outside of my topic scope, I'm going to use that checkbox with the line through it to eliminate the Cold War. I can do the same thing with some of my other subjects. For example, if you're not interested in the business and economics of foreign policy, and that's not something that's interesting to you, you can choose to eliminate that too. And so you start to narrow down your results. You may decide that you only want to see things that are articles at this point, or you may decide that you want to find things that were only published during that time period. So from 1929, let's say, to 1944 or 1940. So we could refine that to see what was being published in scholarly publications during that time period about international relations. Now, some of these may be considered primary sources even because you're looking at that time period, at what's happening during that time period. You'd have to take a look at it to see if it's a primary source or not, based on what your topic is, and to see if it's something that does look like it might be a primary source. So you can continue to do this process. As I mentioned, you could also add additional words up here. So I'm going to remember my filters there, and I'm going to add in a country. Like we talked about, maybe Germany or Italy or Japan, one of the countries that you might be interested in studying the international relations with the United States during that time period. And so this is starting to really narrow down my results now. As you can see, I'm down to about 274. I'd want to keep, each time I add or take away something, I'd want to keep checking my results, open a few of these to look at the abstracts to make sure that you're still getting the kinds of things you think you should be getting, that you haven't narrowed it down too much, or that you haven't changed your search in such a way that you're not getting the same results anymore. As we mentioned, research is an iterative process. You may narrow it down too far and then have to expand it back out. You want to go in and come out and add terms and take away filters so that you can find the right set of results. And always when you're signed in, you'll be able to go back and look at your search history so that you can see, oh, that's what I did. That's not why I'm getting the results I want. Or, oh, that's the search that gave me that really great article. So you can always go back and look at your search history for that. So moving away just a second from the specific topic search, let's look at a couple other things that may be useful to you. So for example, if you are using Flash Find and you wanted to get some results about, or you're looking for a book, let's say, I'm going to reset my filters here so I can look for a book. And say you wanted to know if this is a decent book to use for your topic. What you may want to do is look for a book review of this topic. So I'm going to take this title. It's not coming up, sorry. Outline of US history. And I'm going to look for a book review of this topic so that I can find out what other people have to say about the topic, about the book itself. So I can see here that a review comes up. I know it's a review because it tells me that there. And it's a review in a magazine called the Reference and Research Book News. I'm going to see what that review says so that I know if I've selected a good book or not. It might also help me to determine if the book is scholarly or not. As we mentioned earlier, the scholarly, some of the books can be considered scholarly. So it looks like this is part of this issue of the magazine. I'd have to search a little bit more to be able to find the specific review. I'm not going to do that just yet. Let's try this other one, this other link. Some of our articles are available in multiple databases. And so if you don't find it on the first click, you might be able to find it in the next one. So here in ProQuest, we do see that this journal, the Reference and Research Book News Journal, does have the review. It's a short review. It gives us a little information about it. And it gives us some information about, who published it, as well as, let's see, it provides an introduction to the history of the United States. And, it can maybe help us decide if this is going to be the right resource for our research or not. That's a book to find a book review. Now, let's say, for example, that you want to just look for a specific database. So we have hundreds of different databases available. Some of the databases are more focused on the humanities. One example is JSTOR. So I can go to the A to Z database list on the library's homepage. And if I want to just access JSTOR and see what articles in JSTOR have to say about my topic, I can choose the J and go right here to JSTOR. And I am going to put in my same big long search here. I don't have Germany in this search, but we're going to start with this one and see what happens. And so you can see that rather than those 96,000 results that we had at first from FlashFind, this is only showing me 55,000. And again, over here on the left-hand side, you can start to narrow it down. You can start to look for specific topics, or you can look for things just from journals or just from book chapters. That kind of filtering is available here too, as well as language filtering. And so you can start to narrow down your results, similar to what we were doing on FlashFind. So I'm going to go back to the library homepage for a second to show you one more thing here. So say, for example, you wanted to find a specific journal title. Maybe there's a journal that has published a special issue about your topic. And so I'm going to go straight to the journal title here, and I'm going to put in the name of a journal title. There we go, the International Relations. And I can search within just that journal if I would like to. And I can open up that journal and I can read more, I can read specific articles in that journal that way too. It does tell me, if you notice, it tells me what is available. So some of the journals, we only have coverage from a certain time period. This one began publication in 1954, but we only have it available from 1999. Some journals, we have an embargo, or we don't have the most recent years available. That's a frequent thing that happens in the publishing industry, that they don't provide online access to the most recent years sometimes. So you will need to pay attention to that as you're looking also. Now, I mentioned primary sources, and your professor, of course, in history is probably going to want you to use primary sources. So let's take a look at some of those and see how you might be able to find those kinds of things. We're going to go to the subject guides and go to historical studies. And then over here on the left-hand side, you see that we have this section on digital primary sources. So we do have access to quite a few primary sources through the library. Many of them are open source and free, which is great. Just be cautious, to make sure that you're going to a site that is reputable and it's actually showing you primary sources and not making things up. Now think about your topic. Our topic, we said, was United States foreign policy during the Depression. So think about where you might expect to find some of that information in primary sources. Things like newspapers, perhaps. We have access to the New York Times. You could look at the issues from the 1930s and 1940s. We have things like so newspapers are certainly a good option. You might also think about United States government documents. You could look at the actual president's correspondence for that time period with foreign leaders. You could, through the National Archives, has access to much of that, as well as sometimes online access through our government documents resources. You might also be able to find, foreign powers, their correspondence or their internal workings that talk about dealings with the United States. So you want to think logically about where you're going to look for those primary source documents. Perhaps you might even have oral history interviews with people that fought in the wars, or people that were working in the State Department during that time period. Some of those resources might be available also. So you want to think logically about where to look for primary sources related to your topic. So let's take a look at United States by era. We're going to go to the Depression era, 1920s. And so one of the resources that we have for this time period are things having to do with the New Deal. There's certainly lots of things about the New Deal programs. Those may or may not be relevant to my topic, depending on what kind of project you're looking at. You might want to look at some of the early war information, like the Digital Archive of the Pacific War, that gives you information about the war happenings. And then you might also want to look at our government documents page. And that's here under research, government documents. The federal government has a lot of information available online these days. You could search their database to see what they have on foreign policy. And then, of course, the 1930s or 1940s time period. So I'm just going to put in foreign policy, see what comes up. And there are several different federal government resources, so you would need to take a look and see if you can find the one that would have the information that you're looking for. The Federal Register might publish things having to do with different rules and things that have been proposed, different laws that have been proposed. I went to GovInfo, though, that kind of searches a lot of different resources all at once. So you can see that it came up with quite a few records, but over here under date published, we might be able to narrow that down to something from the 1930s. There we go. We've got quite a few options here for the 1930s, 1940s. So we could select one of these or several of these if you're interested to be able to look at the results from those years and to specifically look at what the government policy is talking about. So these are from the Congressional Record, which are the happenings in Congress, talking about the different laws and speeches and different things that are made on the floor of Congress. So that might be a good resource if you're looking for your topic for a primary source. As always, please do come find me if you have questions, if you need help finding a primary source, if you need help identifying journal articles, or even putting together that search string. You can find me here on the Historical Studies Guide or on the main page, Meet a Librarian. You can schedule an appointment with me. You can email me. You can give me a phone call. Happy to meet with you, and best of luck with your research.